Hey everybody, it's episode 417 of PodQuest.
Hey.
What is it? Wednesday, August 10th. Sorry. 2022. I am Chris. With me is Droo.
Hello.
And Walnut.
You're having a hard time there, aren't you?
Dude, it's been a very long day. I was on a 7-hour conference call.
Jesus.
Fuck that.
And it wasn't like I wasn't actively talking the whole time, but just being on a call, listening to other people talk in my ear for pretty much 7 hours straight, I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I get it.
Especially, it was long enough that my earbud died and I had to swap to the other one. At one point, it just kept going, low battery. I'm like, well, fuck.
Well, that's just, that. That's some of the shit that I don't understand. A lot of my managers, or a lot of the higher-ups in my company, are constantly on calls. And a 7-hour conference call, nothing is getting done. Why are you, if you can't solve the problem, or decide to double back on it in a day or two, then end it after an hour. You don't need 7 hours for a fucking phone call.
No, this one actually had to be 7 hours.
I doubt it though.
No, because we were actively doing things the whole time. They this client that I was at today, they are replacing all of their printers. They have 50-ish, and it's a mixture of the big multifunction copiers and smaller desk sized laser jets that just print. They don't do scan and copy. And they're replacing them with a completely different vendor. So we had to set up the server, install the software. They had to configure all the software, start loading all the printers in, start IPing all the printers. They do badge printing. So people can send a print to a printer and it won't come out until they go and swipe their access badge. Mm-hmm. So we had to get all that set up and get their numbers imported from the old system into the new system, and the old system is fucking garbage, and QSerra in general is fucking garbage.
But why did you need to be on a call this entire time? That's the you probably could have been a little bit more productive not being on the call because you were there, right? That's what I'm understanding.
I was there, but the company that was doing the setup was not. So the guy that was doing all the setup would, as he's doing it, he's like, all right, now, what do you want to do for this? And it would have taken much longer to do that over chat and email than just being on the phone with me.
Why wasn't the company just there? If you couldn't do it, why didn't they send somebody there to do it?
Because that's not how anyone does stuff like that. The guy that was doing the setup isn't from Pennsylvania. He was someplace else in the world.
But if you're setting up things, the company that's the things that you're setting up, they send out the person or a qualified person. It doesn't make sense to me that you needed someone else to do the thing that you were there to do.
So I do not manage their printers. A separate company manages them. The people that manage the printers manage the physical printers. A different company that they work with is responsible for the software that is loaded on the servers. So that company loads up the software and configures it while the vendor themselves physically sets up all the printers.
Well, see, that's just poor setup. You just use Xerox for everything.
No, Xerox is fucking shit.
But why would you use two separate companies to set up one device?
No. So it's not like we are not using two different companies. The company that at our vendor, they work with another company to configure the software. On their side. They basically outsource the software config internally. So we did not pay for this other person. As from our side of things, they were essentially the same company, but I just knew from the email addresses they were actually from two different companies. It's basically the same way that I am outsourced IT for businesses. I work on behalf of those businesses, but I do not have an email address for them. I have my email from my company.
Sounds way more complicated than it needed to be.
I mean, it wasn't though. It was just, it's easier to be on a call. It's exhausting, but it's easier to be on a call than have to keep an eye on email all day.
Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about the call part. I'm talking about everything else. The company's using another company that it's using another company. It seems way more complicated than then the vendor who creates the hardware also creates the software.
No,
and they send somebody there to
that's
set
not how
up.
it works. You do so like we're getting Canon copiers. We are not getting them from Canon. The vendor in this case is never the company that makes the hardware. Very few people order things directly from like Canon or Xerox or anything like that. You're ordering them and like getting a support contract from like a company that is like a partner to those companies. Like they don't work with them, they don't work for them. They just get like a little badge on their website that says we're a certified Canon partner, meaning that like they have access to Canon's better support, maybe, and they just know how Canon copiers work really, really well.
But so the company hires your company orders the stuff from another company, and that company gets you connected with a fourth company to set up the thing that they're selling. Too many people. That's all I'm saying. So it's too much work.
We do. So I apologize. Like, you're definitely misunderstanding a little bit. My company, like my job, I do not hire vendors. I do not.
No, you don't hire vendors, but you purchase the equipment. Like you tell the main company what equipment to purchase, and then they purchase it.
No.
So
not for stuff like this. No. The client decides what sort of copiers they want. They find a vendor. If they want our input, we will make recommendations. Like if this client said, "Hey, we're thinking about going Sharp." I personally don't like Sharp printers. They have a lot of issues. I would have said, maybe don't go Sharp. There's a lot of network issues with those things, and your network is very robust. I'd say probably go Canon. I happen to like Canon printers. They work better. At least like the large scale ones. But yeah, no. Clients are responsible for that stuff. The only thing that we sell are services and like user specific hardware. So like laptops, servers, stuff like that. And like we order that stuff direct for them. Like I make a cart on CDW, send it to our purchasing team, they order it. In this case, like if you go to like any business and like look at their copier, there is probably a sticker on it with a phone number and a name. And that name is the vendor who supports that printer. They have a support contract through them, just like you would have like with like Verizon for your internet. Something goes wrong with that piece of hardware, you call them, they come out and fix it. Most of these places, most of the guys that work at those places are kind of old school. They're very old school network guys. Like they know how a network works. They usually actually have phone backgrounds for some reason. Like a lot of these guys seem to have like worked like extensively on phone systems. And then their companies purchased some sort of like copier print division and they got like sidelined into that. Rather than then also bringing in people that specialize in this software that they install once for a client and then never again. It's cheaper for them to outsource that because you figure like that'd be like paying somebody $50 to $100,000 a year. Depending on like how often you're onboarding clients, maybe they're doing work once a week. Cause like we had this guy for 7 hours. Like he was not doing anything else today but that. And from the sound of it, like he didn't have anything else going on this week. At least not like client facing, but like his company is like the software vendor, like Microsoft essentially.
Yeah, but when I worked in an office, we had our IT department where they would be able to fix basic things with the printer. They would replace the toner and whatnot and bullshit like that. But if it was something beyond that, they called the tech for Canon or whoever it was that they got the printer and scanner from. And then that person would come out and fix it all. When they got new devices, the tech that they got the printer and stuff from was the one who put it all together. What I'm saying is, to me, it's silly that you were there because you have nothing to do with setting these things up. The tech and the other person probably should have been connected together to set it all up between the two of them.
The tech and the software vendor were both on the call. I was there because I'm the one that has to provide them access to all the network resources. I have to get them connected to Active Directory. I have to give them a server to log into. I have to adjust the specs on the server if it's running like shit.
Too many people for this. Too many people.
There were 3 of us.
That's too many. It's too many people.
It's 3 people that specialize in different parts of the equation.
How many people does it take to put in a light bulb?
At least 6.
Exactly. Corporate America is the worst. It takes too many people to do things.
You're just mad because, like, your company is a shit show and your manager's literally sitting on a conference call all day.
Literally, nothing gets done. Nothing gets done in my company.
Like, we accomplished a ton today. And apparently this went much quicker because our server hardware was good. Usually the software is actually, it was the most robust software I've ever seen for, like, copiers like this. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that, like, they have 50 copiers and 1,000 users. Like, this shit's a lot. Usually when I set these up at clients, it takes like 20 minutes because there's like 12 people. 12 people and maybe 2 printers.
This is too much. It's too much.
You're too much.
Yeah, I know I am.
Oh,
what are you going to say about that?
How was your birthday stream last week?
Just
a really bad segue.
I mean, I had COVID for it, so...
I thought you were better by Friday. I know Friday wasn't your birthday, but...
I was mostly better by Friday, but I still... Like, I mean, we just played Mario Kart and hung out, and then at one point I started to get a headache, so I stopped. I ended up getting, like, really fucking tired and having a headache near the end of it.
So you were sick for, like, a week and a half?
I mean, I had one really bad day, which was Saturday, and then after that, it was just progressively getting better. And that's generally how COVID is. Or at least if you're vaccinated, generally how it is you have like one really bad day. From what I'm hearing with other people who also had COVID after being vaccinated, it's like one really bad day, and then the rest of the time, like, you're mostly functional, but still not feeling 100%. And even today, like, I'm probably feeling like 99%. But there might be allergy issues or something going on, or who knows, I might have gotten actually a sinus infection because of COVID.
I mean, that's true. It could be all three.
Or I might have caught COVID again because people in my house caught COVID. Who knows?
And you know, like that, like, slow recovery thing, it's only applicable if you're not Droo.
Yeah.
Well. No, I mean, I don't know how Sarah's doing, but I didn't get a positive test result early enough to be able to take Paxlovid. So it's taking me longer to get over it than Jensen and Kwame are because they were able to take Paxlovid.
I mean, she's like 100% now.
Yeah, she's probably, less than 5 days? Or about 5 days? Maybe a week? I don't know.
No, she's like a week today.
Yeah.
Now, when Jensen and Kwame got the medicine, did you tell them about your friends Joe Biden and Stephen Colbert and make sure they knew that they bounced back?
No, I was the one who made them go get the medicine. Like, I don't know if they knew about it or anything, but I knew that they had plans this weekend. And I was like, once I found out I was positive and Jensen was saying she was feeling sick, I told her, and it was like, flat out, get a positive test result. Do whatever you need to do to get a positive test result. Because you know you have it, because I had it. You need to, once symptom onset, you have up to 5 days before you can start this medicine. Like, but if you don't start it within, like, 3 days, it's not really worthwhile. Because it doesn't really, it prevents severe illness, but you recover, it's a 5-day treatment. You recover within 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not taking the medicine within the first 2 days, don't bother because you generally, if you're fully vaccinated, you're generally recovering within 7 to 10 days. So it's just like, it's a fast turnaround, but you gotta take it fast. And I was too late for that, but I was like, get that positive test result, get that medicine, you'll be fine by next week.
Well, that was
100%.
Nice of you.
I'm surprised they did it.
I am actually a little bit too, because they don't seem to like taking suggestions from you.
They don't like taking suggestions from me. They don't like taking medicine. They don't believe it works. I can't tell you how many times I've told Jensen start taking allergy medicine, and she's like, it doesn't do any. And it's like, well, you got to take it for like 2 or 3 days before it actually starts to help you.
Yeah, I mean, you also just have to take the right one. Like, I only take allergy medicine like if I feel like I need it, and like it works within about an hour and a half or so, like at most. It's just like I had to find the one that works. Like,
yeah,
only Allegra D from the pharmacy works. Like 12-hour, that's it. Like anything else does not actually fix my allergies. They don't believe in medicine. They don't trust doctors. Stuff like that. So like I was shocked that they listened to me. Jensen she said she took like 3 tests so she started feeling sick like last Wednesday. She said she took 3 tests since like Saturday, and she's like a test every day, and she's gotten them all negative.
Kwame is still showing positive, but I think he tested a little too early. I also don't think he fully listened to the regimen for the medicine, so it might not have actually fully worked for him. But who knows? It's because you gotta. It's what is it, Drew? 3 pills a day for 5 days,
No,
or 3 pills twice a day for 5 days.
Yeah.
I think is what Jensen said.
Yep.
Wow, that's actually...
Yeah. And if you miss it, if you mess it up, like, it's gonna fuck it up, and it's not gonna work. So, like, you gotta keep on it. I don't know the full rules in terms of it or anything like that, but I know it's a very hardcore treatment.
Well, do you guys want to get started?
Sure.
Okay, Rich, what's on the agenda?
On the agenda, we're gonna talk a little bit about incest. Then we're gonna talk about Splatoon. Then there was a Pokemon Direct last week, and then me and Cobb played some video games, or beat some video games.
Yeah.
You know what?
So-
I'm gonna wedge a thing in there. I played the Diofield Chronicle demo for like an hour.
Okay.
All right, we'll get into that.
We'll
as
wedge
well.
that in for like 5 minutes.
All right, I'm going to throw that after Richie talks about Guardians.
Yes, that's fine. But to start, did you guys hear about what EA did with The Sims by accident?
So, Drew, I know you did because Sarah was talking about this last weekend or the weekend, whatever weekend Sad Summerfest was.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
They fucked up in a patch.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about this.
It's probably the funniest patch outcome I've ever heard of. So, Rich, they patched The Sims 4.
Yeah.
And they were doing stuff, I believe it was supposed to allow, relationships between any genders without having to, jump through hoops or anything like that. But somehow it also allowed, family members to get into relationships.
Oh, boy.
And then another outcome of this was it essentially started hyper-aging The Sims.
Yeah.
So, you'd have a Sim that would go from, young adult to dead of old age in, the span of, a few minutes or a few hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was the wildest, hey, we tried to do this inclusive thing that, people, wanted, and, it was, a good call, and, it just went so incredibly sideways for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people out there that are so pissed off because, there's people out there that play Sims a lot and manage every aspect of, 3 different families and all this bullshit, and, the hyper-aging, I'm sure. I mean, the incest is weird. It's silly. But, the hyper-aging is probably what more set people off. Because, they might have had Sims that have been living for 80 hours that are now dead.
That was the thing that got noticed first. And then everyone was like, oh, hey, but also they're letting our brother and sister fuck.
Yeah, and I would wager on the scale of things that people got mad about. A subset of people got very angry that they were going to allow same-sex relationships. And then you had the people that were angry because their Sims that they've been working on for 12 years suddenly, aged and died. And then, down at the bottom were people that were buried about, angry about the incest.
Yeah, it's weird that, that patch caused this issue.
Yeah, I think they were basically, they probably, the way it was coded in there, it was probably a if human relationship, yes, and they didn't think about all of the combinations there. It was just is adult, yes, can wed, and then they're just right, you can have babies, and those babies can be brother and sister, and
can woohoo. That's what it's called in Sims. It's called woohoo.
I said wed, so I was at least trying to be nice about it. Jeez.
He was at least implying that they wait till marriage. That they're good Catholic Sims.
Look,
can you imagine?
Look, we're just knowing that the rules allowed them to bang. We have no idea if it allowed family members to wed. So
that's that's true. And I imagine there's at least one person out there who is doing do you guys know the 100 baby challenge thing?
Yeah.
Not really, no.
So it's literally because you can essentially have legacy Sims. You can have a Sim that gets married, has children, dies, and then you continue working with their offspring and so forth for generations. That people have. There's this challenge. It's almost like a Nuzlocke challenge in Pokemon that is having 100 babies. And it's not all at once. It's, over the course of many generations of Sims. I am sure there is somebody whose game got completely fucked because of this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. There's so many weird challenges out there with Sims. But yeah, you're right. Like, somebody got severely screwed in that challenge because of this patch. And like, yeah, I'm sure they had a backup save. They could go back and undo it or whatever. But it's still, like, that's a lot. That could be a lot of time lost.
Yeah.
I mean, especially depending on like how far into like a challenge like that they would have been.
Mm-hmm.
If they were only on like their first generation and like they had like a teenager, I don't know what the life stages actually end up being in Sims. Probably not that big of a deal. But like if they were like 8 generations in, like hopefully they had like a backup save or something.
Yeah. That's funny. That's ridiculous. I like stupid little accidents like that always make me laugh.
Yeah, and it's at least like a fairly innocent one. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like even with the incest stuff, like they're Sims, it's not like they show anything. But yeah, that was just...
That's great. That's great.
Now, Rich, I believe you watched the Splatoon thing?
Yes, I did.
I know you said there wasn't a lot to it, but like, was there anything worth mentioning?
I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't a lot to it, but for the three of us who aren't quite fans of this series, it's a series I've always wanted to get into and try, but I've never gotten it. There wasn't enough substance in a sense to really pull me into wanting to like dedicate the full half hour to watching it. I ended up turning it to 1.75 speed because there was literally a good 5 minutes on the vendors in the city in Splatoon 3 and what you can buy from them, which are pants, shirts, and shoes.
That sounds about right.
Literally like 5 minutes on the vendors. And it's a similar issue that I had with Xenoblade Chronicles. Like, some of this is cool that's nice to show off, but I didn't need a half hour of this. Like, the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes were displaying like the new weapons and the new levels of the primary game mode of Splatoon. And then like the next like 5 minutes or so were showing off like the other game modes, and then they had a few minutes on like their new PvE game mode. Plus there's a single player mode that's coming into play this time. And then there's like this weird card game, like it's like a digital card game. That seems pretty interesting. But like overall it was a solid direct, but like it didn't need to be a half hour. It really didn't. I think there was at least 5 minutes on just them on Splatfest or whatever, which is like a concert thing or whatever that goes on in Splatoon, and like that wasn't needed or necessary. And then they had a segment about like the announcers in Splatoon. A lot of it I didn't pay full attention to because I was just like, none of this makes sense to me because I've never watched this or played this game.
Oh, I didn't realize you'd never played Splatoon before.
I maybe have played like a match, like maybe a friend had it once and I played a match, but like I have not played it enough to know enough about it to know like what the significance of some of the things they were showing were. But like some of the new weapons seem cool. There's like a sword now that you could use. Some of the new special abilities seem cool that you can get. It's kind of more of a class-based system this time, so based on the weapon is also the special abilities you're getting. You can get stat ups with your equipment, with like the different shirts, shoes, and pants that you're wearing. You can swap out the stats and things like that from somebody you can go talk to. There's going to be amiibo support. There's which is not a shock. Like it was pretty much kind of what I expected from a Splatoon 3 update.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but if you're into Splatoon, definitely check it out. You'll probably really like it. It's a game I've always wanted to get into, but just never got. Mostly because I don't have people to play it with, because no one else I know gets it.
Yeah, and like I did have Splatoon 2 for Switch. It's fun. Like, it's a neat game. It's very one note though. Like there is the single player stuff, which like is fun for a little while, but like there's not, at least in Splatoon 2, like there wasn't enough to it to really keep you like wanting to go with it. And then like the game modes itself are, It's paint everything your color and try to stop the other team from getting anything painted their color.
I mean, there's more to the game modes than that. Like, that is the primary game mode is paint everything your color. And then there's, like, the zone where, like, this, like, if you paint the entire zone your color and hold it, then the next zone will change. You'll have to go back and forth. But then there's, like, I think it's, like, 2 other game modes. One is, like, kind of basketball-esque, where it's, like, or maybe more like capture the flag, where you have to get all the shells and then bring them to your, like, basket and fill up your basket. But if you get taken out when you have shells, you'll drop them and whatnot. And maybe you move slower if you have more shells or something. I don't really know.
So I don't think those modes were available when I played it, because this was like early on Splatoon 2 when it first came to Switch. Yeah, and so if I remember correctly too, you didn't get to pick what mode it was. It was one of those, like, it just kind of dropped you into it.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But I know that there's like there's different game modes. And then there's, like I said, there's in the new one at least. I don't know if it was in the in Splatoon 2. There's like the PvE Horde mode.
Right. Yeah, and like stuff like that. Like, it's cool that they're trying to change things up, and like it is a well done game if you want to play like that sort of game. I think they did eventually patch it so that it was a little easier to play with friends too. Because I think early on it was actually kind of hard to like do a party.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, but yeah, I will probably not be buying it, but like, it's cool that they're making another one, because I know people do really like those games.
It's got a pretty decent following. Like,
yeah, like it's super popular.
It's not the biggest following out there. Like, but like we were talking about it on my Discord today. And like on non-peak hours on Twitch, there was like at least 1,000 viewers, or close to 1,000 viewers. And by non-peak hours, I mean like 2:30, 3 o'clock Eastern time, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Usually peak on Twitch time is usually around 5 Eastern until like midnight to 1 o'clock East. Usually those are like the peak hours of viewership.
Okay. I didn't realize it was that popular on Twitch.
I mean, it was that, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. Like, it does have an active community. There was like, I think I counted, there was like 50 something, players, and there was close to 1,000 viewers. Let's see, I'm checking right now. Right now there's 1.1 thousand viewers, with one person holding it up with 360 viewers at the moment. But like, it doesn't tell me how many people are streaming it. I'd actually have to physically count, and so I'm not going to do that. But it's 1.4 million followers on Twitch, so it does have a decent following. Like I said, it's not like Apex or Overwatch, but it's still, there are people that really like this game.
Yeah, cool. So how about that Pokemon Direct?
All right, that was last week.
Or Pokemon Presents, I think is actually what this was.
All I gotta say is Rubble.
Fido. That's all I have to say.
That's Fido.
Fucking dough dog. And don't need to know anything else about that game.
I feel like I'm sure there are going to be a bunch of bullshit Pokemon too, but I feel like this generation they finally got a little creative with things again, or at least like leaned into them just being like cute and also dumb.
Look, I'm gonna make the complaint everyone's making though. Fucking, why are the legendaries being used as fucking cars? Like,
why not?
It's not legendary then. Like, it's not. Like, obviously, yes, you're the only one in maybe you're the only one in the Pokemon world that has this legendary Pokemon.
Until you play multiplayer.
What's that?
Until you play multiplayer.
Well, no, but that's where you got the suspension of disbelief. It's like you're all like you're not all from the same Pokemon world. It's stupid. But like in this world, maybe we don't even know. But as far as we know, you start with a fucking legendary that you might not be able to actually control in battle, but you ride around on as a fucking, one of them is a motorcycle jet car thing. The other one has wheels, but still walks. It's just, I hate it. I love everything else about it, but I hate that the legendaries are being used as a utility.
I mean, they were basically used as a utility in Arceus too. Like, those were supposed to be like special guardian Pokemon.
But they were not legendaries.
They were like the pseudo-legendaries, though.
They were alphas, at best.
Yeah, which is like a pseudo-legendary.
No, they're just a stronger version of that Pokemon. It's not a pseudo legend. It's not a legend. It's not like a mythical Pokemon. It's not like you were walking around riding friggin' one of the friggin' water spirits.
I mean, are you telling me that you never taught like Articuno Fly or one of the Latias? I don't know the plural for them. Surf.
No, because back in the day you couldn't take those moves away. So why would I waste a space to have Articuno no Fly?
Because like
Fly's a really good attack, especially in Gen 1.
Yeah, in Gen 1 you couldn't be hit while they were in the air, and then it did decent damage. I think it was 100% accuracy.
Pretty sure.
I don't know, but like no, I mean I don't think I ever really used the legendaries
so at least you'll use the legendary in this case.
No, I won't, because even in modern Pokemon Sword and Shield, I never used the legendaries in my party. Once I got Zamazenta, I put him in my fucking box.
No. I don't mean for fights. I mean like you will use the legendary to get around the world.
Because I have to. Like there's going to be no other way to get around the world. I just think it's so dumb that a legendary Pokemon is being used as a fucking motorcycle.
See, that's not what bothers me. You know what bothers me? He doesn't use the fucking wheel. He runs. That's
stupid too. One of them runs, the other one is a motorcycle jet car thing, but like, and then the one that runs, his fucking ears turn into his wings. And it's so stupid.
But the one that runs still has wheels.
I know. It's like, this is the first time that like, I've ever hated a Pokemon design and hated an idea behind something with Pokemon. Like, I've never looked at a design of a Pokemon and said, like, this is the worst design ever. I hate it so much. And, like, this idea or this aspect shouldn't be in this game. Like, but, like, the fact that this is a legendary Pokemon that you're using as your vehicle, like, from the get-go, it just makes me so mad.
I mean, like...
you're making an assumption you're getting them right away.
They basically explain that you get them right away.
Did they?
I didn't infer that. I did assume you're getting them fairly early, and that just like in every other game, they will learn the different travel abilities like over time.
Look, it's going to be like Legends Arceus. It's going to be a 12-hour tutorial, and then you're going to get your riding Pokemon.
But who knows? I mean, you can do the gyms in any order, which is actually pretty cool. So, like, you could accidentally not get this guy.
There are some neat concepts. The gym stuff, there's more than just the gyms in this one. There's like, I think they said like 3 separate full-on storylines that you can go through. One of them being the gyms. You can do the gyms in any order.
There's also a treasure hunt, I think, is what the other one was.
I can't remember. I forgot that the direct happened last week. Otherwise, I would have rewatched it. Today, but like there are some really cool aspects, and there are some just like I don't like the idea aspects. Like, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the fact that you could get pretty much every legendary in existence in Sword and Shield, Tundra, whatever, Crown Tundra DLC. Like, pretty much every legendary in existence was in that DLC, and I'm just like, stop giving me legendaries.
I mean, the DLC was just legendaries.
Exactly. And, like, it had a poor storyline behind legendaries, and it was bad. It was bad.
See, I don't mind the legendaries, I just don't use them, but I, like, catching them is usually fun, because there's some sort of kind of, like, interesting thing you have to do to find them, or, like, you know, like, minor story to get to them. Or, like, even in Gen 1, like, you kind of just find them in, like, in places that you weren't expecting to find, like, Pokemon in the open world. Because you had your legendary trio, the 3 birds, and like, so Articuno was in the Seafoam Islands, which I don't know about you guys, but the first time I played Pokemon Red and Blue, I got to the cave, and it's a cave, so you know, every 3 feet, or every 3 steps you get hit by a Zubat. So I actually had looked at the map and saw that you could also get to Cinnabar from Pallet Town. So I flew to Pallet Town and just swam south from there. So I skipped the Seafoam Islands for a while and like went back to them after Cinnabar Island. And then I threw my Master Ball at Articuno. Because I thought Articuno was the one from the first episode of the anime. Because like that sprite wasn't very clear at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what is it? Zapdos is in the power plant that's, like, tucked off to the side, and Moltres is in Victory Road. Like, you can totally miss those two if you just don't go exploring enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Mewtwo is in, like, the cave at the end of it.
Mewtwo is in a cave that, like, you don't have access to the entire game, but you could also still miss Mewtwo because if you never thought to go back to that cave after you beat it.
Yeah, so if you go to the cave before you beat the Elite Four, the person standing outside of it does tell you that only the Pokemon champion is allowed in there.
Yeah.
But you're right, like, that's a thing that, like, you have to remember to go back there after you get Surf and swim over there to, like, talk to that guy, and then remember again after you beat the Elite Four to go try and get Mewtwo.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't mind if the games have a bunch of legendaries and they're, like, at least interesting to, like, catch. But, and, like, I don't mind that, like, the legendary, the version exclusive legendary appears to be your vehicle. I'm like, well, at least that will put them in use because I don't ever end up using them because, frankly, legendaries aren't all that good usually. At least not for, like main game. Like, I don't do, like competitive multiplayer. So I don't care about, like, my EVs and IVs and everything.
Most people don't use the legendaries even in competitive. There's very... I don't think I've ever seen a competitive legendary party.
Well, I don't think you can IV train them because, like, a lot of that is, like, breeding until you get, like, a certain nature and certain stats and all that stuff, and you generally can't breed legendaries.
I mean, you probably. I don't know if you can. If you still can't.
I'm pretty sure you can't breed.
But, like, that's for natures and stuff. You could also, like, there are people out there that will sit there and play and catch, and if it's not the right nature when they catch it, release it and fight it again. Not save and go back and try it again. If there's a chance that the legendaries might, if you can't breed them, there's a chance people will, like, catch it, check its nature, and if it's not the right nature, reload and try to catch it again for the right nature. Because it's like the nature stuff, yeah, that's kind of a crapshoot. But the EV and IV training, that's just playing the game with the Pokemon. Or doing, like, the candies or whatever else. Whatever thing that they throw at you in each game. Sword and Shield had the Battle Tower, which was how you're supposed to do EV and IV training.
I thought there was, like, a whole thing. So, like, I've never done it because it's a level of work that doesn't matter to me. But I thought there was, like, at least in the earlier games, there wasn't really a way to do it so much as, like, you had to get the Pokemon that, like, had, like, a certain base already. And then it was almost like Final Fantasy II leveling or, like, Skyrim leveling where you just had to do a thing until your stat, hidden stat raised.
So yeah, as you play through the games naturally, like, usually when you're playing a Pokemon game, and if you're playing it right and you're swapping out your Pokemon between levels and between battles and things like that, your starting Pokemon are going to be stronger than a Pokemon that you level to 100 by using, like, an experience thing, because you naturally increase the EVs by just battling Pokemon. And then it turned into, eventually, I believe it was, what was the one before Sun and Moon? Was that X and Y?
Yes.
I believe X and Y, because that was on the DS. They both Sun and Moon and X and Y were on DS. But I believe it was
3DS.
3DS. But I believe it was X and Y had, like, that little, like, soccer mini game or some shit like that you use the touchscreen for. That was how you did EV training in that one. In Sun and Moon, it was the horde battles when, like, the Pokemon would keep calling in other Pokemon. That was how you did EV training in that one.
I forgot about those horde battles.
Yeah.
Those things were a pain in the ass.
So, like, it initially started just you had to go fight Pokemon in general, and so, like, in the earlier times, it was a lot harder to train because you wouldn't have the trainer battles always available to you at the end of it, and you would just have to fight regular random Pokemon. But, like, they have eventually, kind of streamlined it a little bit with, like, the one game, the mini game in X and Y, with the horde battles in Sun and Moon, with the battle tower in Sword and Shield, with just the fucking candies and Legends Arceus. So it has changed greatly the way they do EV training since they initially incorporated EVs.
Yeah, because I remember, like, early on, it was basically, like, a hidden stat that, like, you couldn't really do anything with. And there's that, the Poké virus thing that, like, your Pokemon can randomly get it. It might not be in the games anymore, but, like...
It probably wasn't. It probably isn't.
Like, I think it was introduced in, like, Gen 2 or 3, and it was essentially if you took a Pokemon to a Pokemon Center, it would, like, Nurse Joy would maybe tell you that, like, oh, one of your Pokemon has the Pokevirus or Pokerus, whatever it was called. And that, like, it did something actually positive to, like, their stats. I forget exactly how it worked, but it was very weird.
Yeah. That EV training has always been something that really fascinated me, but it does take a lot of time, it does take a lot of dedication, and there's also, it's limited as well. Like, for instance, you probably, I don't know the exact number, but, like, just as an example, you have 100 EV points that you can dedicate to all of your values, total. So, you have to train in a specific way, and so, like, the Horde ones, in Sun and Moon, it was you had to fight a specific set of Horde Pokemon to increase the EVs, the specific ones. So, Zubats would correlate to this one, and these ones would correlate to that one, things like that.
Man, Pokemon, right, guys?
It's so wild how, like, particular those games are. Especially when people turn around and be like, oh, they're kids' games. It's like, look at the back-end math and everything that goes on these. Like, there is a lot more to it than just dogfights.
Yeah, and I think, like, the worst part is you have... The game itself is a kid's game. And especially now, like, those games, like, the stories are generally very simple, and there's no challenge in them at all anymore. Like, they stopped being challenging at, like, Gen 3. But, like, all of, like, the more complex stuff really only comes into play if, like, you're interested in EV training and, like, competitive battles. Because that's where there's a challenge, because then you're going against other people that are also trying to, like, min-max their team.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, well, I mean, look at, so, like, we both complain about Sword and Shield for this. Like, there's several sections where, like, you have back-to-back-to-back-to-back battles, but, like, somebody is with you, like Hop, and he just heals your whole team between every battle. Yeah. It's like, these battles were already easy. I was already one-shotting them because they just keep throwing out fucking Pidgeys. Mm-hmm. And then this dude just keeps healing me every time. So, like, I never run out of moves. I never run out of HP. None of my Pokemon are ever knocked out. Like, there's no challenge. This loses its fun when there's zero challenge and there's no way to really, like, there's no difficulty settings. You can't make it challenging.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people are just, like, they want difficulty settings in, like, the From Software games so that those games are a little more accessible to people with either disabilities or that want to play them but just can't get past the difficulty spikes. It's like, I'd like the opposite for a Pokemon game. I would like harder settings so that there's actually, like, strategy and challenge.
But, like, that's... I would argue, when it comes to From Software at least, I would argue, like, that's the point of those games, though, is to be very difficult. And I understand if you can't get past that difficulty spike, but, like, you practice, and then you think of how much better you're going to feel about yourself when you actually do get past that spike. You grind out the level, you level up your character, you find better weapons, and then think about how much better you're going to feel once you get through this thing.
Yes, but not everyone has infinite time to be able to do that.
Then these games aren't for you.
There's also people that physically cannot do it, that if the games had more accessibility options, they'd be able to try it. Like, I wasn't talking about just people that, like, don't have the time.
I'm all for accessibility options.
But, like, difficulty levels are an accessibility option.
But, hold on. Why does it matter if there is an easy difficulty for other people that want to experience the games without the entirety of the difficulty? It takes nothing away from any... No. It takes nothing away from anyone else. It takes nothing away. Why does it matter?
Because these games have shitty stories, have shitty storytelling, and are made to be difficult. They're not made to be a story to be seen. If people spoiled every ending of every From Software game for me that I've never played, I'd say, okay, I'd still play them. Because these games are not made for their story. Their story is deep lore, yes, but story itself, like if I said this about Monster Hunter, and I'll say it about a From Software game. You don't play a From Software game for story, because playing a From Software game for story is like buying a Playboy for the fucking articles. Like, it's just, these games are made to be difficult.
There is more to experiencing games than just the narrative in the game.
What else is there?
So
like the mechanics, and like, yes, like to that point, kind of the mechanic of From Software games is difficulty. But if you have an easier mode for people that are just intimidated by the fact that From Software games are supposedly insanely hard, have an easy mode that can, or have a difficulty setting that you can change on the fly, that you could start on easy mode, see if you're actually able to grasp the mechanics and be able to bump it up.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What was my nickname back in the day?
Bad at video games.
No. What was my nickname back in the day?
Easy mode. I know.
Why? Because I played a game that everyone was having trouble for on easy mode. So you're going to sit here and say it's fine now, but back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it wasn't? Like, that, but like, I'm not trying to say you're not allowed to play on easy mode, but on certain, like, the easy mode or setting the easy difficulty to me is for someone who is there to experience the story. And if you're playing a game that has no story, or that doesn't have a good story, but has good gameplay and progression in a sense of, like, learning the actual gameplay style, like, turning it into an easy mode takes everything out of that game.
I don't agree. Like,
you're so obtuse about that.
I would like to play From Software games if they had difficulty settings where I could kind of like scale it down, scale it up, and like find like a rhythm for it. I'd be more inclined to do so. But like, they are incredibly hard. I am bad at them. I'm not wasting $60 or $70 on a game that I'm bad at, that I'm just going to get frustrated after 15 minutes and never touch again. Whereas, like, if I can go, like, all right, well, let me try this on easy for a little while, get the hang of, like, how combos work and feel like I'm making progress, and then bump it up and like, gradually get better at it, rather than just, all right, well, it's just always on the hardest difficulty, and you just have to keep doing the same thing over and over again until maybe it clicks.
But that's still how the game is going to be.
Yeah, but if
whether
I
you
can
put it on easy
like,
mode or not, it's still going. You're still going to keep doing these things until it clicks.
Yeah, but me, if I'm not making progress, I'm not having fun.
But
I don't want to fight the same boss 30 fucking times and never find out that it has a second stage.
And that's the level of do something else in that game. You're obviously not ready for
you can't. I tried Dark Souls 3. I could not get to the second form of the first boss. I am absolutely horrible at those games. I do not understand the mechanics. That game is too hard for me to get past the first boss. If that game had a difficulty setting where I could scale it down and actually, like, make progress on that boss and, like, figure things out, it'd be different. But the game's like, here's a boss when you start the game. Good fucking luck. And then you're just left to it.
But seriously, what is the downside to there being an easier mode in it?
There's no downside, but there's
then
again,
like,
but the way there's no downside for me because I would play in the normal difficulty.
Fucking
but,
exactly.
But I'm not trying to shit on people who play on easy mode. I'm not. Play on easy mode. Play on story mode. If that's what you want, that's what you want. But there are
but
games
you're not
made
allowed
to
to
be
play
difficult.
this game.
There are games made to be difficult.
But like that's dumb. Like it's the same way that like it's and like to go back to Pokemon and like Rich, you play Pokemon games. Like you have to agree, like these games need a difficulty setting because like for people that are not 8, they're just getting too simple with it. Like they're just holding your hand through this whole game. And while I understand that they're marketed towards 8-year-olds, they have a very dedicated fan base that have been playing the games since 1996. That like they just kind of like push to the side and be like, fuck them. The 8-year-olds are going to buy it.
I mean, yeah, like the games are too easy, 100%. But it's also, maybe it's the way, in a sense, maybe the way we play. The way I play, I get 5 levels between every gym. Like,
well, you have to.
Like,
So if you're playing that game and you're fighting every trainer battle generally, and like like Diamond and Pearl, for instance, in order to complete the Pokedex to get the National Dex, you have to see every Pokemon in the Sinnoh Dex.
Right.
If you just fight every trainer battle and like no one's hidden, like, you know, like they're all just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the game, you will have encountered every single Pokemon. Because even there's one point in the game where you're at Cynthia's like hometown or something like that, and there's like a building that you go into, and there's a picture of Dalgia and Palkia. And if you view both of them, it actually adds them to your Pokedex as like having been seen. So like you figure if you're doing that, you're definitely getting a bunch of levels between gyms, and you're either going to be leveled above the gym leader or like close enough that like there's not going to be a big challenge. And then gym leaders, by their nature, are 99% of the time themed to a specific type. So, like, usually you have at least one Pokemon in your team that can, like, legitimately one-shot every one of their Pokemon. And I don't necessarily think that there'd be a way for them to change what the gym leaders have, because, like, the gyms are themed that way for a reason. Like, if you go to the Brock's gym and he throws out, like, a fucking Staryu, you're gonna fucking be confused. But, like, if you go there and you have it on hard mode and his Pokemon are all, like, 5 levels higher and his AI is more aggressive,
then you're going to end up playing the game more then instead of me getting 5 levels between each gym, I'm going to get 10 levels between each gym. Like,
yes, you're not wrong about that.
Like, you're not wrong. Like, but that's
the only way to add a difficulty setting in Pokemon is to make the harder it is, the Pokemon hit harder. Which, if you're going against typing, you're already one hit killing even if you're 2 levels below. It's just Pokemon nature. So if you're gonna make these Pokemon hit harder, that's going to make a fight be one hit kills for all your Pokemon. Because I've never played a Pokemon where I don't one hit kill 90% of the trainer Pokemon I fight.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm against type. When I'm properly typing. Like, there is zero strategy in Pokemon story mode. Zero strategy. I've never had my Pokemon use a defensive skill or an offensive up skill because you kill them. That's it. I'm not wasting a turn to increase my defense to kill them in 2 hits, when if I had just killed them and hit them twice, I would have killed them. Like,
you're also a grinder. You grind.
Yeah. I 5 levels between each.
Like, do you act like this is a legit question? Like, do you make sure that you have that many levels between it, or is this just like you naturally get them?
Literally, I make sure 5 levels between each gym. So I will go to the gym. I will go from where I was to the gym, and if a Pokemon has not reached 5 levels from the last gym, which is usually every 5 levels, so it's 5, 10, 15, 20, so on and so forth. If they have not reached their milestone, I am not going to the gym until that Pokemon reaches that milestone.
Damn.
So I will go back out and I will level up fighting wild Pokemon and shit.
Well, so there are totally ways around all of that with a hard mode difficulty cap, like, or a difficulty setting. Like, the Pokemon don't have to hit harder. In fact, if anything, like, the thing would be, in my opinion, would be all the trainer Pokemon, especially, take, like, quarter damage from normal, like, what it normally is on normal difficulty.
Oh, yeah, so that then you essentially can't one-hit them. Yeah,
like, and then to counter grinding, like, once, granted, in Violet and Scarlet, it seems like this would not necessarily really be useful, but in, say, like, an older one, like, once the Pokemon hit a certain level, any Pokemon below their level give no experience.
Actually,
So
you know
it's
what
like,
would be really funny?
if you're like 6 levels over, like, sorry, you get no experience. Like, you're at your level cap right now. Go to the fucking gym. That's the only way to... Or, actually, better, now that I just thought about it, literal hard level cap based on the gym badges you have.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Do the traded Pokemon thing, but apply it to all Pokemon. Like, Pokemon over over level 10 won't obey you until you get the first badge. Pokemon over level 20 won't obey you until you get the second badge. Like, doesn't matter if you caught them originally or not. It's basically Charizard, which I realize, like, Ash didn't, like, he caught Charizard, like, it wasn't a trade, so it's like this weird thing, but it's kind of like the same idea. Like, Ash was an unskilled trainer, so Charmeleon and Charizard stopped listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
The only time anybody was really truthful about Ash was Charizard.
Until Ash saved his life. Again. The second time.
He still didn't fully listen to him.
Yeah, he did.
A little bit, but not fully. Like he listened to him more, but like then he stayed at that Charizard training area or something.
The Char-Pacific Valley. Come on now.
Yeah, whatever. It's fucking stupid. The anime is the dumbest bullshit in the world. Makes no sense.
But no, like so Ash left Charizard there to get stronger because Charizard got his ass whipped by all of the other Charizards. And then anytime he'd call him, like Charizard would fucking, Charizard beat a fucking Articuno.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was in the one where I think they actually go back to Kanto after like 2 seasons later, and they do like the Battle League or something like that. And at one point, like the one of the like battle champions or whatever the fuck they were called had an Articuno, and I think another one actually had the 3 Reggies. And like I never watched it, but I know it when they were fighting, and I believe it's the 3 Reggies. He actually brings like his he brings back his original team that he still had. So he gets Charizard, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and I forget who his other 2 were because he got rid of Pidgeotto and Butterfree.
Would it be Kingler and Dugong?
He never had a Dugong, did he?
He had a Dugong.
When did he have a Dugong?
During the Pokemon League, I think. I just remember
him... Are you
him...
thinking of Muck?
No, I remember him having a seal, and then he evolved and go, Dugong, gong, 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 is how he said it.
Oh, no, that was Misty. Misty had the seal that evolved.
Misty sucks. But he did have the Kingler, during the Pokemon League. And
that's true. He did have the Kingler. He had Muck. He had Tauros. He may have grabbed like one of like his Johto or something like that. Cause he basically always had like the very like standard team of like all the different types. From what I've seen people post online, apparently his team now is fucking crazy. He's got like a Gengar and a Dragonite and shit.
Yeah. He's become a better trainer. He's still the worst fucking trainer in the world. He's become a better trainer.
No, he still gave up like all of his strongest Pokemon. Like he had, I don't know what season it was, but he apparently had a Greninja that had like a bunch of special traits that only that Greninja had. And then after he lost in the league for that season. People are mad about that because there's no reason he should have, because apparently he had the type advantage. And then immediately the episode later lets the Pokemon go. Mm-hmm. It's like, why?
Was it his Primate? Did that come back?
No.
The Primate. I can't stand what he fucking releases Primate to the gym trainer. Like, oh, you're gonna like it here. Fuck you, Ash. You're a fucking moron.
He flat out lies to Pidgeot. Like, he leaves Pidgeot behind.
Yeah, he says, I'll come back.
Yeah,
and
he leaves him behind. He's like, I'll be back for you in like a week after I like go pick up this special Pokeball for Professor Oak. And then like he sticks around the Orange Islands and wins that championship. And then like comes back and just goes right to Johto.
What a dick.
And like, yeah, and then never saw Pidgeot again.
Yeah. Fucking Ash. He's the worst trainer.
Yeah. But yeah, to circle back, I think the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looks like it's at least going to be interesting. Like, it's probably still going to be too easy, but at least throwing out you can do gyms in any order. There's some other narrative arcs you can take instead of just the gyms. That's interesting.
The only issue with the gyms in any order is that all signs point towards they're not scaling in any way. So can you really do them in any order? Like, I guess, like, you could level up all the way to where you could do the last gym first, but...
So what if they do... So, hypothetical and would be awful. Two things I can think of, if they don't scale. I feel like they're going to scale, and that was just like a mistranslation or something.
No, there's so many places reporting they're not doing any sort of scaling.
All right. And until Nintendo confirms it, I'm going to keep hope. But two things I can think of that they could do is, and I don't particularly like either, Breath of the Wild style, where they're all the same. Like, there is nothing special about the gyms. Like, you can literally fight them with, like, your starter, which would be stupid. But, like, that's how the temples, the beasts in Breath of the Wild were. Like, that's why you could go to any of them in any order, because you didn't need anything special to do it. Other option, you do not fight the gyms with your Pokemon. So, there was going back to the anime, back in the original, it may have actually been, like, season 2, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but, like, in the anime, it, like, ran up to the episode where Charmander evolved, and then it would start over for a long time, kind of like Dragon Ball Z. And then, like, it finally got, like, the next set of episodes that ran from that point till, I want to say, the Pokemon League, and that was where, like, I think the very next episode, or 2 episodes after that, is when he evolved into Charizard, and they met the photographer guy that was a huge douchebag. One of those episodes, Ash went to, like, this Pokemon school thing, and it wasn't the school where, like, his Pikachu got beat by, like, a Pidgey or something stupid. He, like, took a test, and then there was, like, a battle portion of it, and he was handed just 3 Pokeballs, and it happened to be Team Rocket's Pokemon. It was a coughing, or it was a wheezing, an Arbok, and a Meowth, and he had to battle with them. And maybe they do something like that. Like, you go there, and you get given 3 random Pokemon leveled to the gym.
No, that's not gonna. They're not gonna do that.
You are in a school. You are a student at a school.
Like, that's the least bad of those 2 options.
Honestly, that something like that would at least pose a challenge, because I don't think they'll do it. Don't get me wrong, but you know, you get given 3 Pokemon that, like, maybe you're not familiar with, and you have to, like, figure out on the fly, like, all right, like, what can I do with these motherfuckers?
I mean, that would require, like, Pokemon to actually be unique in really any meaningful way. That they just fucking aren't.
I mean, that's true, but, like, if you get them and it's like, oh, well, this one has 2 defensive moves and 2 attacking moves, it's like, all right, well, which one of these attacks will be good against this Pokemon?
But, like, that's shit we all know. Unless you take it even one step further, the moves are just called Attack 1, Attack 2, Defend 1, Defend 2, and you don't even fucking know the moves. Like, you have to figure it out that much by, like, using the move multiple times. But, like, we all know what the fuck Thunderbolt does, or, you know, name basically any Pokemon move. They've had the same, like, 50 moves that exist in the entire game for 15 years now.
I mean, they add at least, like, 1 new move every generation.
Do they? I feel like I don't... not counting the max moves or whatever the fuck, with the giant things in the last one, I can't say I fucking saw, like, a new move that I recognize, or, you know, that I didn't recognize.
So it's usually the starter, and the starter will usually have some sort of, like, unique move that,
okay,
like, either it will learn or somebody will teach it. So, like it's definitely a loophole, but, like, they do usually add at least 1 move.
But still.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, even with random Pokemon, like, it wouldn't be that much of a challenge unless it's all type disadvantage.
Yeah.
Like, you go into a fire gym, all they give you are grass Pokemon.
And then at that point, that's just not really, like, necessarily fun in any way.
Yeah. But
because you could just do that yourself if you really felt like putting the difficulty on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like that's why people do the Nuzlocke things. Which, Rich, didn't I see you post something on, like, Twitter that you were thinking about doing one?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of doing Nuzlocks for each of the games in the series.
Start all the way back with, like, Gen 1?
Yeah, start Gen 1, go through all of them that you can do a Nuzlocke in, which the only one, as far as I can tell, you can't, is Legends Arceus. And pretty much, I'm thinking of doing it like a vlog style, where I'll record myself playing, to a certain milestone, and then I'll talk about my experience or whatever and post it on YouTube. But I haven't fully figured it out or decided how I'm going to do it yet.
I don't know for sure about that, but I think I remember seeing like people really like watching that stuff on stream too. Like, depending on like what your stream schedules are going to be like, as far as like what games you have kind of planned out, that could also like doing like chunks of those where like maybe you do a game and then like break for a little while. Like people might actually really enjoy that as like an actual stream too. And it's one of those games where because it's an RPG and it's not like a story heavy one, like you can have a lot of just interaction going on too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it, because also, like, I don't want to dedicate, like, I want to catch up on my backlog and figure that out, and then I don't want to dedicate too much time to, like, just playing the Pokemon. So if I were to do it, it would be, like, once a week type of thing, and I would play for several hours, and then I would still have to edit it down to a YouTube, to one or multiple YouTube video lengths, like 2 or 3 half-hour videos, and then post those on YouTube after the fact. And so it's leaning to be a lot easier, because there's also a lot of downtime in Nuzlocke because there's a lot of grinding, because you got to make sure you reach level cap or level requirements to be able to fend off the Pokemon. And then depending on your rules, like my Nuzlocke rules would be no items in battle. So like I got to make sure that, like, I am well stacked up, and like, there's a whole different strategy for Nuzlocke than just running and gunning, especially in the early gens.
Yeah, because just to make sure I'm not misremembering what these are, it's, you can only catch the first Pokemon you find in an area. If a Pokemon dies, you have to either release it or put it permanently into a box, right?
Yeah, so it is, general rules are, and like, some people will alter it a little bit. You have to catch 1 Pokemon per route. Has to be the first Pokemon you come up against that you don't already have or have already had. Some people don't have the don't already have rule on there. I'm gonna add that on there because I'm not running around with 5 fucking Rattatas.
Dude, that could be difficult in Gen 1 and maybe 2. Because I don't think,
Well, so it's you catch the first Pokemon you come across that you don't already have.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. So, like, Gen 1, there was no indicator when you find a wild Pokemon if you already have it until you catch it.
Oh, yeah, there's a capture, a capture thing.
Yeah. Does it show the Pokeball next to them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Fuck, for some reason I thought it didn't. I thought they didn't add that until, like, Gen 2.
Nah.
No, it's
100% there. Listen,
and then...
Well, just real quick. If you do go all the way back to Red Blue, you have to fucking catch a Mew. Just for that one section, abandon the rule and fucking go through all the bullshit to get a Mew to appear.
There's none of it. It's not real.
Yes, it fucking 100% is. I have a copy of Red or Blue, I forget which one, from the DS digital store on my 3DS that I have a fucking Mew that I caught, not fucking hacked. Like, I fucking went through the bullshit. Like, you have to get an Abra to appear. It's a lot of bullshit, but it fucking is real.
Yeah,
and
like
it
you
works.
have to talk to the grumpy old man in Viridian City, fly a few places, and like then it spawns on like a very specific tile.
No. It's not even that.
You have a different way?
Yeah, there's just a whole, like, because I got it before you can even get fly.
Really?
Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it like the first time you get to Cerulean City.
Oh, so the last time I looked at like the steps for it, you had to have fly, and it was a lot of like go here, talk to a thing, and then fly here and like encounter a thing. Like it was like one of those sort of setups, and then like a Mew would appear, and because Mew is in the code, like it was it was the last thing they put in the game before it shipped as a joke, because they had no idea how or if they were ever going to release it. So the programmers just included it because there was just enough space for this Pokemon, because it had all the same base stats as Ditto, and had no unique moves. So it was basically just the Pokedex text and the front and back sprites and the cry were the only like storage space it took up.
But yeah, like Mew is 100% in the game.
And look, Rich, if you caught a Mew, you'd be able to use it.
I mean, that would be after all of my Pokemon before it get knocked out. So that's the rule. Like, you have to catch one per route, or one per region, one per zone, like, whatever. You have to name them. If a Pokemon goes down, you have to release them or put them in a box, and then swap them out with the next one on the list. And it doesn't matter what level they were when you got them, you then have to grind them out until they're the level you need them to be. Like, you can't pick and choose, oh, well, I just got this one that's at the level I need it to be. No. You have to go find that level 3 fucking Caterpie that you caught and put that in your team, in order to proceed forward.
And then get into a random encounter, get one hit, and then...
Yeah, and that's where it's like, because it's also like early Pokemon, you don't have the EXP share right away, so you're starting the fight with your Pokemon out, and then taking them out and throwing another one in there to level up that Pokemon as fast as possible until it reaches a certain point where it can hold its own in a fight.
Yeah, and that whole thing is going to be very time consuming.
Which is why I'm like, there's a lot of downtime in Nuzlocke. Even if I were to use like a fast forward feature or whatever on a ROM, but like on an emulator, like, if there's still a decent amount of downtime that, like, on stream it wouldn't be very captivating. It would be just me sitting there playing it and maybe talking with people if they're there. So like, that's why I'm more interested in doing like the milestone aspect of recording while I play, and then like, oh, we reached the first gym leader, we made it through Mount Moon, we made it through this, we reached the next gym leader, stuff like that. And talking about like, oh, I had to grind, or one of my Pokemon died during this sequence, and showing clips and everything of me playing.
Yeah, I guess that streaming it would definitely work better if, like, you consistently had, like, fairly big numbers, because then it would be, like, getting, like large amounts of people to, like, help you pick nicknames and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and just think, if you get to Gen 2, that game is twice as long.
I think generally the Nuzlocke is just getting through the championship of the main...
No, man, you gotta go all the way to Red. You gotta fight Red's level 85 or whatever fucking team on fucking Mount Silver.
Red isn't necessary for the story. It's to beat the story.
Yeah, and the story sends you to Kanto. You clear Kanto, and then Professor Oak's like, hey, here's this fucking pass to this mountain that's been, like, haunting you this whole game. Fucking go check it out. And then you find this, like, silent protagonist up in the corner.
I'd have to see what people do for roles for Gen 2, but
you're probably right. They probably did stop after the league.
It's credit rolls. Like, once you roll credits, that's the end of...
Do credits roll after you beat the Pokemon League in Gold and Silver?
I don't remember. Probably.
But yeah, you're probably right. They probably do roll, but I don't know. That's a weird one because it's like there is so much game left after that.
But like look at Sword and Shield. Like, a Nuzlocke is becoming champion. Once credits roll, there's still all that bullshit with Swordbert and Shieldbert and all that stupid shit. But that's not part of the Nuzlocke.
So I didn't realize that, actually.
Yeah.
Rich, do you want to move on and talk about Guardians?
Sure. There was a bunch of other stuff in that Pokemon Direct.
Yeah, it was all the mobile
Unite
games,
shit. Pokemon Unite stuff where they're having a fucking Pikachu event because they suck Pikachu's dick. And then there was the Ultra Beasts are coming to Pokemon Go, stuff like that. But none of it really interests the rest of us. But yeah, so I beat Guardians yesterday. Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Cobb, have you beaten that?
No. I keep meaning to go back to it, and every time I turn my Xbox on, I just fucking play Power Washer Simulator. I got to Cosmo, and I went through the weird portal thing with Cosmo. I forget what the ship thing is that you're on there. It's the Nova Corps ship, I think, right? Like you go back. From Cosmo, you take that like floating hand back to the Nova Corps ship that you were detained on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You go. No, do you go to the Rock? No, that you don't go to the Rock. You go. Or maybe you do go to the... I can't remember now.
It definitely was.
No.
When you're there, I remember...
You do go to... It brings you to the Rock because Because that's like that's when you find out a large portion of the actual story. So the game is fine, and that's probably the best I can say. It
had
fine.
a much more interesting story than gameplay.
Yes, and even the story's good and interesting. The dialogue is fine. The voiceover is not good. The voice acting it feels way too robotic, and then the animation of the characters during conversations are just dull. Like, you have the characters getting excited about things and yelling at each other, and they're just like slowly waving their hand back and forth and shaking their head, and it's like, this does not bring me into it. It just disconnects a lot of it. But like the dialogue was fine. It's just like I didn't feel anything through the voice acting. And just the character models themselves just didn't look good.
I thought the character models looked good, but I agree. Like, there was a disconnect between the way the character models were behaving and the way the lines were being delivered, at least in certain points.
So one of the costumes that you get for Rocket is a full bodysuit costume that his fur is coming from.
Like, clipping through?
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious. I wonder if it's like his original, like, comics, like, flight suit looking thing.
I don't know. You'd have to go check on my stream last night to find it.
No, because I don't want to be spoiled.
You're gonna be spoiled. The game's like fucking 6 months old. This is your fault now.
That game's a year old, buddy.
You played it. Is it a year?
Yeah.
I thought it came out in January.
October.
Oh. Well, you started playing it before I did, and I beat it before you.
Yeah,
so this is your fault.
You have these strict guidelines of, like, I'm going to play this game every Tuesday on stream until I beat it. I'm going to play this game until something else piques my interest, and then I'll come back to it someday.
Yeah, and you're never going to go back to it.
It's still on my Xbox. I will certainly go back to it someday.
Mm-hmm. But
once I have power washed the world, I will go back to it.
So, like, the story's very interesting. It's really cool what they did with the Golden Church and the Golden Disciples or whatever.
That's where I got. I was in, like, a map room on, like, the Nova ship. I had a bunch. I have a question, actually, before I get to that. Do you remember there was like a big circular room that was like an elevator that, like, at one point, like, the power died and you had to go, like, do a bunch of stuff to, like, repower it?
Yes.
Did that work for you, like, without any hiccups?
Yes. Your game crashed, or your game glitched out, didn't it?
It bugged, and I forget what character it was. One of the characters was supposed to move to a position so that they could do a thing, and it didn't do it. I spent like 15 minutes running around this room trying to figure out what they needed me to do, before I finally, like, just, like, reloaded my save and did it all over. And, like, the character moved into place and, like, the thing moved on to the next section. I'm like, what the fuck?
No, the game is very glitchy. I had to restart 3 times? 2 or 3 times. The first time, there was when I first got to Nowhere, and the enemies kept glitching into being in combat. Or not the enemies, the players. So, like, Gamora or Drax kept glitching to being in combat, where, like, there was one point Drax is drinking tea and stabbing himself in the fucking face with his blades. Or, like, Gamora is sitting there talking during a cutscene, and she has her fucking sword out, and she's just swinging it through whoever's standing in front of her. That ended up causing the game to glitch out big time, that I had to drop out, go back in, and it fixed it. It was, 'cause I was on Nowhere, and I went and, explored the Collector's, museum. And I went and looked at the Throg, podium and read its thing. I then went to another spot and found a pickup that you could read. And every time I picked it up to read, like, the little hollow thing, it gave me Throg's information and not what I was actually supposed to be reading. So I had to exit out, reload back in. They stopped stabbing themselves. I was able to read the little communicator. And then there was another instance where I was on the ship that you're talking about, and the characters are sneaking across, like, a glass bridge that the glass shatters, you fall, and then you have to fight a boss. Once I killed the enemy, my characters went back into sneak mode.
Oh no!
And we're like sneaking around. I couldn't jump. I couldn't step over anything. I couldn't do anything. So I ended up having to unload and reload back in. And then there was one other instance when I was playing last night. It might have been last night. It might have been the night before. Where I accidentally activated the huddle. I get it correct. And then he's just in the huddle mode and dashing and sliding around slowly all over the place. Even after the huddle's over and there's no more the bar filled, he's still in huddle mode. I ended up having to luckily I was able to progress and I didn't have to pop out. But what did I have to do to pop out of that mode? I can't remember. But it was just the game is very glitchy. And it's a shame because it could work really well. And they tried to lean a little bit more. They should have leaned a little bit more on the whole Mass Effect aspect of it. But your decisions didn't really make a difference. The only time it made a difference was maybe at the end, and you don't notice the difference.
Yeah, I noticed that as I was playing through that the one that they showed in all the trailers where you're trying to decide whether you're going to try and pawn off Rocket or Groot on the one lady. That didn't really matter because I guarantee no matter what I picked, Rocket was going to get mad at me and leave the group the same way he did.
Yeah. So I sold. Did you sell Rocket or did you sell Groot?
Rocket.
I sold Rocket as well, and he ended up, he was called cute too many times, and so he got mad. And it was just all right, well, obviously this is what was going to happen. My decision wouldn't have made a difference. There's one instance where Cosmo is being brainwashed. This is way beyond where you are. And you can try to talk Cosmo out of the brainwashing. And if you succeed, he runs off. He doesn't reward you with anything. He doesn't give you anything. He runs off. And then in the final climactic battle, he somehow controls all of Nowhere to show up in this battle, which this ship is now, Nowhere is now smaller than the Milano, and is able to help you fend off enemies, which I think, if I hadn't rescued him, there would have been a battle I would have had to do, but because I rescued him, there wasn't a battle. And that was it. That was the only difference it made by helping him. Which, the fights weren't really that hard, and, unfortunately, the combat gets very, very mundane, especially once you get certain abilities. Rocket has an ability that pulls in all the enemies, and then Gamora has an ability where she attacks all the enemies in an area. So if you pull in them all and have Gamora attack, they're all dead in an instant. I was clearing combats before it even started at times. And it's just if you don't get it done then it's just you sitting there holding the shoot button until you can use abilities again. And it's kind of boring. It would have made it so much better if I could switch to different characters rather than just command them.
Yeah, I definitely wish that I could have actually used the other characters. I didn't get to a point where I had many abilities yet. So for me, not that the combat was challenging because it very rarely presented a legit challenge, but I still ran into a few sections where everyone was low on health and I was kind of kiting people around a little bit while waiting for some of those abilities to charge.
You get the healing ability, the last ability you get in the game. So Groot gets the ability to heal your allies and yourself, but it's the last move you get in the game.
I didn't know there was a healing ability, so that is news.
But that's the thing though, that is literally chapter 14 of 16. You get the healing ability. And I'm just that's kind of dumb. Why didn't I get this sooner? But again, the combat wasn't very challenging. And it got very boring and very bland. And it's just I died more from platforming than I did from combat in this game. And the platforming is just bad because the collision detection is so off. There was a lot of times that the reason I failed the platforming is because even though I wasn't stepping off the platform, the game was registering that I stepped off the platform and was in the air. And so when I hit the jump button, it was registering it as a double jump. And so I was missing my jump.
Well, so I don't think I had any issues with the platforming up to where I was, but like I could definitely see like that stuff not getting better.
Yeah, it didn't really work well because all you got was jump and double jump, and that was it. Like you got some of the you could use Gamora to throw you up, but like most of the like guardian abilities during exploration and platforming were to get hidden stuff, not to actually progress further.
There'd be like you need Gamora to run up the thing to like knock the plate down so that you could climb up it, but like
but
was that.
In the game, it gets to a point where you don't even have to command them anymore; they just do it. And so, like there was a lot of like the last couple chapters of the game where like Groot is making bridges on his own, and Gamora's cutting pipes on her own without me telling her to do it. So it's like, all right, well, that's like half the game. Why didn't they just do it now? Like, why didn't they just do this before? Why did they have to wait until the very end of the game to do it and stuff? It was just like, there's just like a bunch of silly things that like, the game worked, but it was glitchy as fuck. And the dialogue was too robotic. But like, it had promise. And I wish whoever gets Eidos Montreal also gets the ability to continue to make these games, that they could improve on this, but I very much doubt it. And but like, the game just did fine. I think reviews were just fine, like good. I would give it like a 5 to 5.5, probably, maybe a 6, but like I wouldn't give it much higher than a 6.
I don't know. Like I played. What would you say? Like, did I play about half of it?
No. Let's see. There's 16 chapters. I don't even think you're chapter 8. You're chapter 5 yet.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly don't know. Let me see if I can figure it out real quick. But like I up to what I played, I'd probably give it like a 7. Like I was enjoying everything about it.
Yeah. By that point,
that's what I said. Like up to what I played, I'd give it like a 7.
Yeah, up to that point. But like once you put another 15 hours into it, so you are probably maybe just halfway through. You're probably chapter 8, the matriarch. Yeah,
it looks like I'm looking through this now. I'm looking at IGN's like thing for it. Yeah, you know what? Like, I think I am legitimately halfway through. It looks like the beginning of the matriarch is where I stopped, or like the end of chapter 7, beginning of chapter 8 is where I remember stopping.
So I went into playing on Monday, probably chapter like mid to end chapter 9, maybe 10. There was literally an hour and a half to 2 hours with no combat in this game.
Wow.
Yeah. Like there was a lot of just nothing and all dialogue for like the first hour and a half. And that's the other thing, is like a lot of the dialogue options that you can get into, that you can talk about, they're character building, but they're not story progressing. And because this world is it's like so late in the game of the world, and there's so much lore behind it, none of the character building really matters, because you don't know what went on with pretty much the rest of the world. All you know is that there was a war, and Thanos is dead. That's all you really know.
I mean, that's all you need to know.
But like, the war wasn't a war for the stones. Like, it wasn't Infinity War or anything like that. It was just a flat-out galactic war between the Chitauri and Nova. And Thanos was part of the Chitauri, and he's dead. And then Nova won. Like, as you play through, you learn a little bit more about it, but like, there's so much more to the lore of this world, but you don't get to learn, and they're not going to expand on anything else. So sitting here and getting character stories about like giving Gamora a doll, and her explaining Thanos gave her dolls, but like you never actually get to experience Thanos. Like it doesn't really, it kind of misses for me.
They may have also been hoping to get like a sequel out of it, and that's unlikely because I believe that studio got sold.
Eidos Montreal, so probably.
Yeah, they did. Like, yeah, Square Enix definitely sold them.
Yeah, so we're probably not getting another Guardians. But yeah, I would say go play it. But like, I had heard good things about it, and the good things are right. But it's also like it was a little overhyped before the release, and then reviews brought it down a notch, and it's like, yeah, this game is good, but that's probably the best we can say about it.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those games where all of the like stream stuff, like whenever Square Enix was showing things off, they wanted this game to be more important than it was.
Yeah.
And then all of like the like games media was just like, this looks bad. Like nobody wants this. But then the game came out and everyone's like, oh, like this actually, like, this is better than it should be.
Yeah. But like, I will 100%, like the character design, some of the costume designs and character designs were just bad. And you can tell that they tried a little too hard to connect with the MCU Guardians while also trying to make it their own. And like, there were times where they tried too hard to be Bradley Cooper with Rocket. And you could tell that they were trying really hard to mimic that MCU Guardians.
Oh yeah, like these are the Guardians off of Wish.
Yeah, it misses so hard because it's not the MCU Guardians, and they're trying way too much.
That actually tracks. Like those character models and like the way that they were portraying them was definitely like, yeah, like we couldn't get the actual Marvel movie rights, so like these are like what we think they would look like if these were being sold on Wish.com.
I think it's supposed to be like, well, no, probably not. I was saying this the other day, and now that I think about it, most definitely not. I was gonna say I think it's supposed to be the same universe as the Naughty Dog Spider-Man, but no, it might actually supposed to be the same universe as the Avengers, like the Marvel's Avengers that Square made.
I actually don't think they're actually any connected at all.
They're probably not, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they had kept the studios that they tried to connect them in some way, shape, or form. But Drew, you might like the game for one reason.
What's that?
Drax. One of Drax's costumes is the costume that CM Punk made.
Interesting. I forgot Punk did like a weird little comic run there.
Yeah, he did a run with the Guardians, and so Drax literally wears like the wrestling shorts, and he's taped up all the way down his legs, and he's got like, I think a little bit of tape on his hands. That was the costume I ended up using for once I found it till the end of the game. Except for the sequence where they change your costumes because they just happen to have new costumes.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
But Drew, what is this Diofield thing?
So, it's a strategy RPG that was announced earlier this year in some Square thing during something, who knows. And it looked really interesting. It turns out, so it's not a tactical RPG, like it's not a turn-based thing, like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre, what have you. It's definitely more like an RTS. Like, you either pick one of your units, or you can pick multiple, or all of them at once. You know, like there's one button to just select all your units. You can hold square on PlayStation to like have it expand a circle to select all the units that are inside the circle, or you just can hit X on any one unit and then you move them and they get into range and they'll just start automatically attacking. Triangle will pull up a skill menu that as you unlock more weapons, the weapons will have more abilities. So like you start with a lancer, a dude with a big lance on a horse, a dude with a dagger, and a person with a sword and shield. So like the person with the lance starts with an ability that they charge forward and will damage anyone that the reticle that comes up crosses paths with. The person with the dagger has a multi-attack thing that if it kills whoever is being targeted, it resets the cooldown, and then you can go use it on a different enemy if there is one. And then the sword and shield had a shield bash that stuns. And, you know, if you flank the enemies, you do bonus damage with the person attacking from behind. I don't know, it seemed pretty cool. I'm definitely interested. And, like, it comes out in a month, I think.
Oh, this is the game that you and Eric were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I remember this because you guys were going back and forth about the release date, and you were like, no, it's September.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's tomorrow.
And then it was like, oh, no, that's a demo. And I was like, oh, a demo, you say?
Yeah, because they announced...
The demo is on everything but PC. So
Okay.
PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Switch. I was playing on my PS5 because it does look pretty nice. And I'll say the demo probably ran a little worse in some spots than I expected it to, but also only in like the cutscene. The combat was running fine.
Are they like impressive cutscenes or?
No, kind of. But I wound up skipping most of the cutscenes because, like, at least after the very like beginning thing, because once I actually played, I was like, oh no, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. I might get this. I kind of don't necessarily want to know too much about what's going on.
Is it not is your save not going to carry over?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I'll look into it, but even if it does, like, I'm kind of cool leaving it at the, like, roughly an hour I played. Like, I played 2 combats, which was enough to unlock the ability to buy more items, to find out that, oh, the higher level swords or whatever have more abilities on them, and then enough to have unlocked the, like, passive skill tree for each character. So, like, as they level up, they'll gain AP, I think it was, and there's a bunch of different passive abilities, like bonus 3% extra damage when attacking from behind for the character that could equip the daggers. I'm actually not sure if you could just equip anything on anybody. It seemed like you couldn't, because when I tried to buy a crossbow, it was like, nobody can equip this, and I was like, oh, okay.
So it's all like job specific sort of thing?
I guess, but it didn't seem like there was like an ability to change jobs, but maybe there is later.
Yeah, I mean, I know like a lot of the Fire Emblem games, they kind of lock that, and even the Warrior Three Hopes, like they kind of had that locked behind things until you got to a certain point.
Yeah. So I mean, either way, whatever. Like, if it winds up being okay, well, you have your dude over here who can equip the axes, or your dude over here that can equip the spear. Like, which one do you want to use?
All right.
That's fine.
So you're gonna need to get the collector edition, Drew.
Oh.
It's 169.99 euros, which I believe, according
Nice.
to GameSpot, is about $208.
Which means probably 200 or.
It comes with a board game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Eric needs to buy the collector's edition.
Eric bought the collector's edition. What are we kidding?
Oh yeah.
Let's be real. He bought 2 of them.
So it's a board game, a competitive board game set in the world of a video game. As one of the 4 captains of the Blue Fox Mercenaries, make your way through Diofield Island and gain the most fame to claim victory.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's on the Square Enix store.
Oh, it is just 170 US.
Okay. The Square Enix store is showing 169.99 euro. So I was.
Are you at the UK store?
You're somehow on a. Well, he's probably not even on a UK store if it's showing euro. He's on the European store.
Oh, right.
It's literally like the GameSpot article I have says pre-orders are currently available across PC consoles. The collector's edition is set, which is only available on the Square Enix store for around $208. And the link I clicked does bring me to the Euro store. So that's, I don't know why GameSpot decided to give me, or decided to use the Euro information.
That's actually really funny. I wonder.
Well, when was that article?
Today at 8:30 in the morning.
Huh.
Yeah, Diofield Chronicle demo is now available for PC and consoles. Strategy RPG will launch September 22nd. So it was literally, this article was posted today.
Weird.
And yeah, they used the Square Enix store information, the Euro store. Send that link to the board game Discord and tag Eric in it. If you haven't already.
I will.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems interesting, and I will almost certainly play more.
Man, $170.
Yeah,
but it's you're paying $100 for the board game.
Yeah, that's true. It's $60 for the game and then $110 for the board game, or
it's $70 for the game and $100 for the board.
Nope, Switch edition is the same price.
Yeah,
and honestly, the PS4 and Xbox One versions are also probably $60. So I imagine the the next-gen ones are also still 60.
Mhm.
But, like, you know what? Like, 110 is pretty average for, like, a large board game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how big this board game is. There are also, like, pin sets and shit like that as well as part of it. So, like, the board game is probably, like, a $70 to $80 board game. And then, like, probably $40 for the pins and shit. And then the rest for the game.
And then it looks like there's some, like, digital stuff and all those things. So, yeah, like, that price isn't completely unheard of for, like, what you're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's for the first time, it's a reasonable price for a collector's edition.
I mean, it's still probably a smidge too much, but it's not, like, outlandish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they will just eventually start selling the board game.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Anything else you want to say about... Sorry, Rich, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wish I paid more attention to the card game for for Splatoon. I'll have to look into that more. It looked really neat, but it was like a digital card game. It was an actual physical one.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize there was one.
Well, it was announced during the Direct.
Oh, okay. Oh. But Drew, anything else you want to say about the game? Diofield Chronicle?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
All right. Well, in that case, I started Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That half-hour Direct, definitely necessary for how fucking dense this game starts out. Had I not watched that Direct, I would have been very confused about what the fuck was going on. But so far it's actually really good. It gets started way better than Xenoblade 2 did. Like, I feel like Xenoblade 2's like beginning was kind of a fucking slog, especially because your character doesn't have any combat abilities like at the very beginning. Like, he's not because 2 was the one where like it was the blade driver system, so like you basically needed another character to be able to fight.
Yeah.
This one, it's just your characters all have the ability to fight. And fairly quickly, you just get your whole team. So, like they showed in that Direct, it's 6 players. They're from 2 opposing sides of, like, a conflict. And within 3 or 4 hours, maybe a little bit more, that whole team is together. And they actually, like, they all have, like, interesting and varied personalities. The thing that's really funny, though, so they showed this in the Direct. They're job classes. So you have, like, your DPS, your healers, and your tanks. There's, like, 2 of each class, like, or there are 2 variations of each type. So there's 2 different characters that have healing abilities. There's 2 different classes that have DPS abilities, and there's 2 different classes that have tank abilities. And you can unlock those for every character. So, like, any character can essentially be any class. But the thing that, like, differentiates them is their jacket. So, when the game starts out, both sides are wearing, like, basically, like, their military uniforms. Like, they all kind of are dressed the same with just, like, slight flourishes and differences so that you could see their individuality. But once, like, the story kicks in and, like, they are no longer part of their respective sides, they find, like an abandoned crate full of, like, clothes. And, like, some of it just looks like regular-ass clothes that we would wear. And they all get, like, a different jacket. Like, every one of them is wearing a different style jacket. And when you change your classes, your jacket changes to whatever that person wears. The rest of your outfit's the same. Doesn't matter what else you were wearing. Just your jacket changes. And
Man, I wish my jacket determined my class. I'd wear the rich jacket.
Yeah, like, and it's not even like that. There's nothing about these jackets that make them look like one way or the other.
Hold on. Every jacket you wear is already a rich jacket.
Oh, he got you.
That's not what I mean, though. I'm not a class.
No, you have no class.
There's a difference.
I mean, you're kind of right there. Kind of.
But yeah, so that part is interesting. They don't just give you free range to change them up front, though. It's each character is basically paired with another character that has they actually have, like, a somewhat different class, except for the healers. It's kind of weird. So the 2 healers are different types of healers. The one, she is definitely more of a support class. She's got, like, 2 different heals, and then, like, some other stuff that is just, like, more support based. And then the guy that has the healing stuff seems like he has some more things that are a little more damage oriented, but only, like, 1 or 2 heal abilities up front. They trade with each other, but then you have like your two like main characters, so to speak. The one that you bless you, the one that you start out with, the main male character, he's a DPS, and then the main female character is a tank. So they trade with each other. And then your third characters are it's the tank on the one side and a DPS on the other, and they trade with each other. But as you play, you unlock the ability to change into any one of them. So in theory, you could have people be, you could have 3 healers and like 2 tanks and a DPS. If like it was like a particularly hard fight and you wanted to just kind of keep everyone healed up and focused on like 2 people. And it really does play kind of like an MMO where you're just kind of juggling everything. Cause like in battle, you can just switch between characters. The only time you can't, readily like swap between them that I've found so far is if an enemy is targeting you and you have not entered combat. So since it's all just one big open world, if like a monster targets you and you just keep running, you technically haven't entered combat. You actually have to pull out your weapon for it to go into combat. At that point, you can start swapping between characters. Before that, you're stuck on the character you're playing as. So if you're trying to run away and maybe that enemy hits you and you're almost dead and you're like, oh, well, let me just swap to another character so that I'm not almost dead. That doesn't work, and that character maybe dies, and then maybe you get taken back to your last checkpoint. Mm-hmm. Just theoretically. I'm
guessing that happened to you.
Yeah, yeah. I was so there's a bunch of like side quests and stuff like that. One of the side quests is this character is very thirsty, and you're kind of in the desert. So they basically said like, I'll take anything with like water to it. So you have to give them a bunch of fruits. And there are just items all over the ground, so you just kind of have to go, like, wandering and looking for fruits. And I couldn't find the fruits that he wanted. He'll only take, like, these 6 specific fruits. Every fruit I find on the ground is, like, the one thing he won't fucking accept. So I was, like, running around just trying to find those and avoiding battles, and accidentally aggroed something that was significantly stronger than me, and just couldn't get away quick enough.
Well, maybe you shouldn't avoid battles, and you should fight everything.
So for the most part, you do, and I don't know if Xenoblade X that you played was anything like this, but these games are like, in any given area, there will be a bunch of things that are at the level you should be at, and then there's like a few spots where there's just like a random thing that's like 70 levels higher than you.
No, it was very similar in X, except the world was completely open from the get-go, and the monsters that were set like 70 plus levels higher than you were set that way because they were meant to be taken out with mechs and not just with...
Yeah, so in these ones, and 2 did the same thing. There was a section in 2 that you had to run through that was full of enemies that were significantly higher than the level you were supposed to be at that point in the game, that you just had to hope they didn't aggro you. Because if they did, they were just going to one-shot you, and then you'd have to start that section over again. Luckily, The game is generous with checkpointing. It checkpoints you every time you enter like a not a zone, because like there are landmarks like in zones. So anytime you find a landmark or go back near that landmark, it like checkpoints you there. So you can kind of like, if you're like running around an area looking for something, you can kind of like checkpoint yourself and then like run around and just keep kind of swinging back to checkpoints. But yeah, so far like the story's been really interesting. The characters, none of the characters are obnoxious the way some of them were in 2. The accents are still very bad in a lot of cases, though. They just have bad British accents for some of these characters. The most egregious...
I've noticed that British accents in games are bad in general.
Yeah, they don't sound... I bet they are real accents, but they don't sound it. They sound... Excuse me, I have the hiccups. They sound like the caricature, like, British accent, like, that, like, people do when they're trying to, like, make fun of a British accent, like that very, like Yorkshire, like thick, like hooligan accent, but like turned up to 11. They don't curse though. They use like their own like goofy like curse slangs, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But the most egregious thing so far have been the tutorials. They're the fucking worst. It's like every 5 minutes they're showing you a different tutorial, and they force you to fucking go through it, and they all run very slow. So, like, the tutorial to, when it's showing you that you can change your character classes, it literally makes you change every fucking character's class to, like, the one that you can change it to, and then assign every one of those characters a different spell. Like, it was like a 10-minute fucking tutorial that all they had to do was show me once, and I could have gone in and done the other ones when I felt like it. But they, like, forced you to do it before you could do anything else.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's just how you have to know how to change each player's, or each character's class, because it's different for each one. You have to know.
But, and, like, you know what? If that was the case, if it was actually, like, somewhat of a different process, or it was giving me, like, unique information about changing each class and, like, what would be good for them, I would actually understand that. In this case, it was every class change was the same across the board. Like, you pick the character and then you just pick the spot next to them for the other class, because everything else is grayed out because you haven't unlocked it for them yet. And the game doesn't tell you anything specific about what you're doing or, like, what those characters, like, perks or strategies would be.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows you a blinking fucking cursor on where to move to on the screen and select things. And, like, it does it for some very trivial things, too. Like, adding an accessory to your character, or, leveling up. And not like going in and picking skill points, because the game doesn't do that. But when you go to a rest thing, there's just a spot that says level up. And when you click on that, you can spend bonus XP to level up. It's very straightforward. The first time you go to a rest thing, it's obvious you can do that. Because, like, you have 3 options. It's level up, save, or clean. Or, like, clean your clothes. They still haven't given me a fucking tutorial on what that does. I have no idea what cleaning my clothes does for me. If it does anything.
It's your clothes.
But, like, I don't know if there's, like, a perk to that, or, like, if it helps, if people treat me better, if I don't smell bad. No idea.
I mean, there's only one way to know. Stop cleaning your clothes.
That's true. I mean, where I'm at in the game right now, nobody will talk to me. And, like, even when I do clean my clothes, the whole group is, like, been exiled. Like, everyone on both sides wants to murder them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, won't tell me what the clean clothes thing does. Spent 5 minutes explaining to me how to move a cursor to the left or right to move up a level. It's like, cool, I got it. Like, I didn't need this part of it. And, like, I'm sure there are people that do. I'm sure there are people that didn't play any of the other ones, don't know the mechanics at all. Like, maybe they've never played, like, an RPG. Like, sure. But you can't skip them, and you can't turn them off from what I've been able to find in the settings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, they're just mandatory shitty tutorials. Like, they're not good. At least in Xenoblade 2, I feel like they were a little more useful because, especially the combat in that one, I felt like it was more complicated to get started with because of that whole, like, blade system they did. As far as the combat goes in this one, it's almost the same as the previous one without, like, the blade system. It's still, like, you attack and your specials kind of fill up as you're playing, and then you hit a button to shoot them off, and the more you do the specials in good time, the more your, like, ultra move lines up. The one weird thing that I'm not a huge fan of, the people from the one army, their abilities just refresh over time. And, like, some of them take a very long time to load. Whereas the other army, all of their attacks refill with your auto attack, which is how everyone was in Xenoblade 2. So it's just like, if you have them and you just keep auto attacking, your abilities will refill, like, as quickly as you're attacking. Which makes, like, strategy a little bit easier. With the other one, it's like, oh shit, I don't know how long the cooldown is for this because there's no timer. I just have to wait until it glows again. Mm-hmm. I hope I didn't waste my heal and get killed right now.
So, according to twinfinite.net, and pretty much everywhere else I checked, cleaning clothes does basically nothing. It literally makes your character shinier and cleans their clothes. If you don't clean your clothes, they get dirty. And apparently there will be, like, call-outs of complaints of how dirty they are, and, like, the characters themselves will complain and call out, like, how gross they are and grimy they are. And apparently there's, like, a forced cutscene where they have to clean themselves up at times. I don't know. But
there was
from
in the
twinfinite.net.
In the very first after the basically the introductory battle and, like, exploration bit, when you get back to, like, your main camp for the first time, the 3 characters you're playing as, they do all go to, like, the bathhouse to, like, get cleaned up. And it was very much like a Japanese bathhouse setup where, like, they had to, like, they didn't really show this for all of them, but, like, you could see, like, characters in the background sitting on, like, those shelves, with, like, the running water, like, cleaning themselves before getting into, like, the big, like, hot bathtub thing with all the other people.
Yeah.
And, like, they were all just like, we need a bath. We're covered in grime. I'm like, okay, like...
There was your tutorial for cleaning clothes.
But, like, that was not, like, an option I had at that point. That was just, like, the marker told me to go to the building, and then they took a bath.
And that was your tutorial for cleaning clothes right there.
I don't think it was.
I mean, they explain cleaning clothes and taking a bath because they're covered in grime. That was your tutorial.
No, but they didn't explain the clothes part. They just went to take a bath to get all the blood and guts off of their skin.
Exactly.
When they left the bath, they were all wearing the same fucking clothes.
But they were clean.
Were they? I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't play it, so...
It was a bathhouse. It was not a laundromat.
Sometimes you can clean your clothes in a bathhouse.
No, you can't.
I don't know. I've never been in these places.
Well, maybe you should go to a bathhouse.
They don't have them in the United States.
Well, leave the United States.
Yeah, see, that means I'd have to get a job that pays me enough to where I can afford it, and what's the thing called? A passport?
None of these things are hard.
The job thing is hard.
Okay, that's fair. Passport, very easy.
But the passport also costs money, and then we already
you make that Twitch money now, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know how much a passport.
It's like $100.
Yeah, that's 2 months of Twitch.
So you can leave the country in November.
But I need to pay for it now because it still takes time to get the passport. So in maybe in November this year I'll be able to leave if I get, because I was $2.50 off of making $50 last month. So if I make $52.50 this month, I'll get $100 and then I can get my passport started in September.
No, it's all right. Droo just showed you don't actually have to leave the country to get to a bathhouse.
There are multiple bathhouses in Philly.
They're spots for gay people. I've actually looked them up before.
How do you know? You've never been... I thought you knew nothing about bathhouses.
I've looked up these places before. Because there was one time I was like...
Did you want to go to a bathhouse?
I was like, is there bathhouses in the United States? And I looked it up, and yeah, you're right. There are multiple in Philly. But if you look up reviews and stuff, it's where, like, people go to bang.
I mean, that's fine, right? You don't have to do that part of it. You can just take a nice bath.
I mean, true, but it's still... I don't know about it. I'm not going into Philly to go to a fucking bathhouse. Oh, the hot springs in Philly. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. This place is outside of Philly. The one that Droo added here. Like, it's out near, like... Oh, no, I guess it's West Philadelphia. When the map moved, it looked like it moved further. It's like University City. That's fine. Near Mantua. You got this. There you go. Bathhouse. You go this week. You tell us what it's like. We can compare and find out if there's a laundromat there.
No. Just no.
Fine.
Just no.
I think that's going to do it for this week, though.
Yeah. That probably sounds like it.
Right. So next week we will have our next book club, which is Prey, the 2022 film on Hulu.
I'm hearing a lot of people saying it's solid and it's enjoyable and it's good. So.
Yeah, it is actually. People seem to like it more than every other Predator movie since Predator.
People are very positive about this movie, so I'm looking forward to watching it.
But other than that, if you would like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there with your dollars, though, you can go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Rate us, review us, subscribe to us. That stuff all helps a whole bunch. You can find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @1_quest on Instagram and Twitter. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo. And you can always send us an email to social@one-quest.com. Otherwise, Rich, any special stream schedule or anything for next week?
Stream's just normal for the next, unless I somehow get like 28 new followers in the next week. The stream's going to be normal for the foreseeable.
All right. Well, in that case, we will be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
See yous.